So if you haven't seen the news on Twitter, last weekend I moved into my first ever apartment and can officially say I've been able to make a living doing graphic design after over a decade of dedication, mistakes, and general life experiences. I started doing graphic design in 2010 when I was about 11 years old, and in 2018 I had quit my minimum wage retail job to focus more on university and pursue design as an actual career. Now recently, this and last year, I was finally able to make that living doing design, not only through freelance, but also through my new full-time job at 100 Thieves. Now obviously this is a huge moment to celebrate, but considering this YouTube channel is focused more on education, I thought it would be helpful to make a quick video talking about 10 lessons I've learned in 10 years when it comes to turning a hobby or passion into a full-time job. Starting from the top, one lesson I've learned recently that I thought was really interesting is that everything you can learn in school, you will eventually learn naturally over time. So there have been so many moments where I'll say to myself, oh, I remember learning that in school, or I'll see friends with no formal design education using techniques that they had just randomly learned through experience. So the most important factor to your skill set at the end of the day is always going to be that dedication and practice towards your craft. The next most valuable lesson I've learned is that meeting people in your industry and growing a community has equal, if not greater, value than technical ability. I'll see a lot of mixed opinions on this idea, and some people even see it as cheating when they see less skilled designers that are more successful than them. But the main thing to keep in mind is that your ability to connect with other people is a skill in itself, and this will go hand in hand while you improve your craft over time. For number 3, I also wanted to stress that building a personal brand will help you no matter what path you pursue as a creative. For the longest time, I thought that branding was only really useful for large businesses, but even as an independent artist, I've learned that it is really important to see yourself as a business and treat yourself as you would with your own clients when it comes to creating a solid brand identity that shows people that you're really serious about what you do. Next up, one of my favorite pieces of advice I've ever received is also one of the simplest, and that is to always be intentional in everything that you do. This rule has not only applied to my general life, but can also be interpreted in the way I design. So one principle I always preach to designers is that if I point to anything on their work, they should be able to explain why they put it there. If they aren't able to think of a reason, it usually means that it doesn't serve a specific purpose and that the design will still function the same without it. Another lesson that has kept pushing me through tough situations is to always see every moment as an opportunity, even when it comes to mistakes or failures. I'll keep it brief for this section, but when it comes to my career, I had actually lost 3 major job opportunities before landing my full-time position at 100 Thieves, and each time I had lost that job, it almost felt like the end of the road, and I lost a lot of my motivation to keep going. But after calming down and taking time to reflect and ask myself how I'm going to bounce back, I was always able to come up with a plan to increase my chances of being hired in the future. For number 6, I learned that it is extremely important to surround yourself with people that are equally or even more passionate than you are. I found that my favorite interactions with friends that I've made in this design community have always been moments where we pushed or challenged ourselves, and the more you do this, the faster you'll improve. Number 7 is one of the most difficult yet one of the easiest lessons to follow, and that is to trust the process and be patient. Obviously this goes without saying, but 10 years is a long time to land any job, but when it comes to the creative scene, only the people who persevere and remind themselves of their end goal will be able to find success in an industry that is basically already filled with a lot of talent. Moving into number 8, I wanted to stress that the journey will always be the most exciting part, and although starting out might be challenging at first, the experience of being able to look back at your progress will always make it worth it. This is a lesson that beginners won't really be able to truly experience until much later in their career, but I still think it's very important to keep in mind. Heading towards the end with number 9, one of the most underrated lessons I've learned is how necessary it is for designers and artists to practice communication and speaking skills. Even though our craft is generally focused on visuals, being able to explain your work and especially pitch it to clients will elevate your value as a business and allow your creativity to sell for what it's really worth. I was actually extremely introverted and had a hard time speaking when I started out.
This is After Effects. I'm just gonna give like a little quick summary. This is the project thing right here. It says project up here.
And I understand how difficult it might be to break out from that shell, but the more you practice and the more passionate you are about your work, the easier it will be for you to step out of that comfort zone. And lastly, my final life lesson I've learned in these past 10 years is that it is extremely important to know that you can't learn everything, and that's okay. Considering how many branches there are in design and art, whether it's illustration, animation, or 3D, it's very easy to become a victim of imposter syndrome when you start comparing what makes you unique with what makes others unique. Don't feel stressed to become a master at everything, and instead focus on exploring the things that specifically fuel your passion as a creative. So those have been my 10 biggest lessons I've learned in these past 10 years. If you have any questions for me, you can find me on Twitter and Twitch at Nowack Design. I'm live every Saturday and teach content similar to what you watched today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.